You're about to find out which type of roller coaster I think Busch Gardens Tampa will add after Gwazi. I'm going to cover how large the park's 11th roller coaster will be and where it will be located and when it's going to open. Welcome to Theme Park Predictions and more. My name is Brandon, and be sure to give this video a like, and I hope that you consider becoming my newest subscriber. Busch Gardens Tampa is in a very intriguing spot, with Iron Gwazi originally set to open in 2020 but obviously pushed back until 2022. So that has to mean that the park is already in preparation for their next major thrill ride, right? I would say yes, due to the projected growth from the other SeaWorld and Busch Gardens parks. So when can we expect to ride Busch Gardens Tampa's next roller coaster? I predict that we will see an announcement sometime in 2023 and the new roller coaster opening in late spring of 2024. As to why I think this timeline works is quite simple actually. Coming to Busch Gardens Tampa in 2023 is their new S&S Scream and Swing called Serengeti Flyer, and I got to admit that this is a much needed new flat ride for this beautiful park. However, the placement of this new thrill ride I think is a hint at what's next to come, since it will be located where the old station was for the old Rhino Rally attraction. So here's what I think. If Busch Gardens Tampa was not planning on adding something else much larger to this area of the park, then they would have placed the new Serengeti Flyer here and not so far off the main pathway. I just don't know if a Scream and Swing placed 400 feet off the main path would make sense for any park, let alone Busch Gardens Tampa. After giving you a sample of how my mind works, I think that this is the area we need to be focused on for the park's next roller coaster, and the Scream and Swing was just the first part of this massive new project. Now that you know when and where Busch Gardens Tampa's new coaster could potentially be located, it's time to learn about the three most likely coaster types that make the most sense for the park's 11th coaster. But first, if you or someone you know is planning a trip to Busch Gardens Tampa, then you do not want to miss my Busch Gardens Tampa Insider's Guide, where you're going to learn ways to save money and save time and have a much better enjoyable experience at this awesome park by learning about all of my recommendations. Also, near the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the odds for each one of these coaster predictions actually getting built. First up, a GIGA coaster. Before I continue, the park does offer a height restriction of around 200 feet or so, and had to get special clearance for the 335-foot tall Falcon's Fury drop tower ride. And since a roller coaster lift hill is much larger than a single tower, this would be a stretch, I'll admit. However, I do think it would be possible because Busch Gardens Tampa is the only park in Florida that could potentially build a GIGA, and the marketing power behind this magnitude of a coaster is just massive. I'm just saying, if BGT wanted a GIGA, then I'm sure they could find a ways to really press the project and potentially make it happen. So let's say a GIGA does get approved, then I predict that we are looking at a 300 plus foot tall coaster that would be located in this area here, offering a giant L-shaped layout filled with floating airtime, low-to-the-ground turns, and a few tunnels. At this point, I think it's safe to say that either INTAMIN or B&M could be contracted for this project, and both would cost roughly the same amount of money. Either way, I do believe a GIGA has been talked about and is a project that is on the table for Busch Gardens Tampa. Now here is something else to speculate about. What if Project Dragonspire from BGW was scrapped and sent down to Tampa? This way, Busch Gardens Tampa still gets their GIGA because the tallest part of the coaster would be over 300 feet, but all it is a twisted tower and not a roller coaster lift hill. I think that if Busch Gardens Tampa went this direction with the project, then this idea could really be possible. Going a lot smaller for this next prediction, but with seeing what's being added to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, SeaWorld San Antonio, and SeaWorld San Diego as of late, I think we could see a new family INTAMIN multi-launch coaster open at BGT. Now obviously the park already offers Cheetah Hunt, a coaster very similar, but remember, that did not stop the company when they announced Arctic Blast at SeaWorld San Diego for 2023, when the park already offered Manta, which is a mock multi-launch family coaster. and Busch Gardens Williamsburg adding the new INTAMIN Dark Coaster when they already have Verbolten. So I think the argument of the Tampa Park not adding a family INTAMIN launch coaster is honestly irrelevant. However, I do think the new coaster would offer a unique terrain and seating position like the Jet Ski Rescue Coaster to really differentiate from Cheetah Hunt. A layout for this size of coaster could easily wrap around the Serengeti Flyer attraction and would look great in this area. And now for the final prediction. And get ready because I predict an RMC T-Rex. Just kidding. But how about a roller coaster that is larger than Pantheon? We know that the SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment love working with INTAMIN, and adding a roller coaster that features a lot of the same elements that Pantheon offers would be very unique to the Tampa Park. Elements like the top hat, the rollback, a swing launch, and of course the vertical spike. I would also love to see a stall element added that would be located right above some water so riders can look down as they see water down below. Pantheon is a legit coaster, and that is just after one ride I had on it in the morning. So just imagine riding a roller coaster like this at night at Busch Gardens Tampa. I mean, the night rides would be phenomenal. And also imagine getting off of this and heading right over to ride Iron Gwazi, followed by Kumba, Shikra, and Mantu. Now talk about an amazing coaster lineup. Another reason why I think the next coaster could be a ride like Pantheon is Busch Gardens Tampa could market it as Florida's largest multi-launch coaster. They could easily take the height and speed record. And for the love of God, please Busch Gardens add some theming to this project. Now that you know about my predictions, I wanted to share a few wildcard ideas with you. I think a new flying coaster would be a great fit for Busch Gardens Tampa, and here is why. Just imagine a VEKOMA multi-launch flying coaster flying above the Serengeti Safari through trees and through tunnels. I really feel like a coaster like Fly would make more sense for Busch Gardens Tampa than let's say a B&M flying coaster. And I honestly think this type of coaster added to the park's lineup would be amazing. As for another wild card, I have to say a B&M wing coaster. And I really do feel like this does make kinda sense, but does Busch Gardens Tampa really need another roller coaster that the main focus is inversions? Kinda my thought, because they already have Kumba and Mantu. As far as which of the three coaster types that I think is the most likely to become Busch Gardens Tampa's 11th coaster, I think with a 50% chance of happening, we will see an INTAMIN coaster similar to Pantheon. I feel as if the family launch coaster has around a 30% chance of happening, and the GIGA a 20% chance of happening. So now that you know my predictions for Busch Gardens Tampa's next roller coaster, it's time that you share yours with me in the comments. And honestly, I do not have time to respond to every single comment. However, I love reading each one, and when I like the comment, that does mean that I really did mean it, and I really do thank you for taking the time to leave the comment. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.